Hi, welcome back to Deep Images. We are going to do something very special today. We're continuing our series on strange love stories, but we are going to do one of our symposiums where we kind of dig really deep into this movie and talk at length among ourselves, only people who have seen the movie and are very intimately familiar with it. So that is me, Henry Covert, and I've got Rhiannon Clark, my co-host, and I've got our newest recruit, Elijah Butler. So we're going to discuss Mandy by Panos Cosmatos from 2018, starring Nicolas Cage and Andrea Riseborough. So this is a hell of a movie. Um, I've had a history of it myself. We'll go into that later, but we just want to kind of let you know, like, what is this movie? What's it about? I'll just quickly say the basic kind of movie before letting Rhiannon talk to you about the storyline itself. But essentially, Panos had done one film, Beyond the Black Rainbow, which was a very stylized science fiction film. It flopped, but it got a lot of critical acclaim. It was very influenced by early David Cronenberg. It was very esoteric, very intellectual. And the thing is, he set it in the early 1980s as a homage to when he was growing up. And it centers around a young girl who has telepathic powers, who's being held in this compound by these people, and one turns out to be her father. So I don't know if y'all are familiar with this, what we're talking about, but we're basically what I'm telling you is Stranger Things stole Beyond the Black Rainbow. They have never admitted it officially, but it's been leveled at them many, 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 many times because it's beyond obvious if you watch both. Now, I'm not saying the Stranger Things doesn't have its own characters or its own whole little thing, but the idea of it being in the 80s, period piece, and the whole setup of Seven and that, or whatever, 11 she was in Stranger Things, that's all from Beyond the Black Rainbow. They just executed it differently and not as well. I mean, Stranger Things is good for what it is, but this movie's really beautiful to look at. It's difficult to follow, I will say that. So, but I would recommend it. So with Mandy, came up with a story that I guess was a bit more accessible, um, but still kind of ventured into this kind of weird dimension through the sound and the photography and the script itself. Um, and like Beyond the Black Rainbow, it is also set in the 1980s. It's split into three chapters. So the first part is called The Shadow Mountains, and it says 1983 AD. So I'm going to turn this over to Rhiannon to talk to you about that passage in the film.
hmm Sweet. Thank you, Henry.
Nice to have you.
Um, okay. First of all, we start off, we see there's this character called Red. Red is Nicolas Cage's character. And we see him that he's a lumberjack. And we see him, and this beautiful song comes in at the start of the film. And it's stunning music. I don't know.
It's the song "Starless" by King Crimson. It was written by Robert Fripp, Bill Bruford, and John Wetton, who sang it. And um, it's just, yeah, it's always been a classic to me personally. I didn't know it was going to be the opening theme. So when I'm watching the movie, and it comes from an album called Red. Everything has like an in
Wow,
double
perfect.
meaning in this. So Red from Red's,
Symbolism.
yes,
Symbolism.
Starless is Red's theme from the album Red. And I started singing along with it in the theater. And all I'll say is that some people thought I was really loco, and I didn't mind. But yes, it is a beautiful song, very well placed. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with the audience. So.
Oh, that's gorgeous. That's beautiful. I love that. I can see that as like when you see, especially if we see movies in cinemas, and I can imagine that seeing this particular movie in the cinema would be spectacular because the cinematography is stunning.
Mhm.
And yeah, so we hear the song from King Crimson as Red is in a helicopter flying over the Shadow Mountains, and it's just stunning. Uh, we there's a line in it. It says like on black screen, red print. So this really beautiful red print is like it's really stunning. It's really kind of 70s, 80s. It
Yeah.
because a lot of things that are set in the early 80s still look like they're in the 70s. That's what I think.
Yes.
That they still kind of look 70s. It's set in 1983, and So the lines say, "When I die, bury me deep, lay two speakers at my feet, wrap some headphones around my head, and rock and roll me when I'm dead." So that's the text at the start of the movie. I really
Cosmo-
feel like this. Mhm.
Cosmatos has said it's a metal movie, as in heavy
It's a
metal.
it's a
Like,
heavy metal movie. Like
yeah,
the
like
movie is a heavy metal.
because in the early '80s, heavy metal music had that kind of mystical vibe. Like it was kind of forbidden and weird, and I mean that changed, but he kind of captured it really well. So I'll let you continue.
So then we come to see uh, Mandy, and it's played by Andrea Riseborough. Is that her name? I think it's Andrea Riseborough.
Hmm.
And we come to her, their log cabin, Red and Mandy's cabin in the woods, and we see that she's a beautiful artist. So she's kind of like childlike in her own sort of innocence, and
Mm-hmm.
she's drawing. Uh, and Red comes in and gives her a big cuddle, and he looks at her drawing, kind of like, wow, he's in awe of her. And you can see the love between the two of them. There's admiration in Red's eyes for Mandy, that like just deep, deep, deep love. And I appreciate that. It's just, and how it's shot, and like, and the music and everything. It's just, you really kind of get the sense of the love between the pair of them. And yeah,
A lot of people concentrate, on the second half of the film, which of course we'll get to. But I feel like a lot of this material you're going over, you summed up really perfectly. And to me, that's the root of the movie. It is called Mandy. It's not called Red for a reason. You know what I'm saying?
good
Anyway,
point. Yeah, good
yeah.
point. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Like, because we are getting to feel the impact of Mandy and her energy upon the characters in this film.
Hmm.
And I feel like she's sort of like a goddess that reflects people's selves to them.
Hmm.
And like, Red obviously sees his love through Mandy because he's a loving guy. Um, Whereas the characters that she meets, I think later on, see demons in themselves in her.
Hmm.
She's a
Hmm.
mirror,
Yeah.
and I like the mirror often gets sacrificed or whatever. Gets
Matters.
Yeah, yeah. People try and break the mirror rather than learning from it.
Right. Good point.
Hmm.
Excellent.
Yeah. Mm. Um, so yeah, they have a loving exchange. They actually ask, what's your Red asks, um, Mandy, what's your favorite planet? And she says Jupiter because it has a storm that's been raging for years. And then he talks about a Marvel character called Galactus that eats planets.
Right. Right.
It's kind of
Because
Hmm.
fun.
that's
Fun.
sneaking in because Nicolas Cage is a huge Marvel Comics fan. So it's a double kind of meaning. And also, Galactus was really having a lot of storylines in 1983 in real life. So for the character to reference that, as a planet eater, and also it's kind of like she's talking about planets and then he's just like a planet eater. And then they laugh. And it's like it's just something in joke between the two of them, and that makes it really more romantic to me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so romantic, absolutely. And I actually, just at Christmas time, I actually went to my boyfriend's house, and I went and I looked at Jupiter through a telescope.
Oh,
So that was so special that I actually recently saw Jupiter through a
oh, right, that's
telescope.
cool.
And then to watch Mandy,
Nice.
it was like, oh, wow, it's just extra sort of cosmic energy coming through, watching it synchronistically. It's like great
Yes.
timing, universe. So yeah. Uh, then they go for kind of a swim, or like Mandy goes for a swim by a lake, and they're having a sort of a campfire moment. And it's so mystical because it's kind of shamanic in the fact that Nicolas Cage is looking through the flames. and then Mandy comes through. Red looks at Mandy through the flames, and she's coming up out of the water, and she just looks like a goddess.
He's in
And
awe.
yeah, he's in pure awe. The way he looks at Mandy is the way I want my boyfriend to look at me.
Right.
Yeah, 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 totally. Oh yeah, then later on they talk about this when Mandy and Red are in bed together after that night. Um, oh yeah, no, actually, she has a dream when they're in bed, and she has a dream that she sees a deer in the forest, and
Right.
the deer is dead. And I think it's kind of like Mandy's innocence is being sort of like kind of broken a
Challenged.
little bit or challenged. That's a better
Yeah.
word. That's a nice word for it. Being challenged. Yes, Elijah.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Like totally being challenged. And so she's kind of like, what is this? It's almost like she's seeing death for the first time, but she's an adult. So it's kind of bizarre the way she's looking at this deer that's dead or whatever.
It's like an
And
Hmm.
omen.
yeah, it is an omen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially like the haunting monologue that comes like right after the nightmare about like her childhood of her father like killing like baby starlings.
That's it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
rough, and there's
that's
definitely a
exactly.
history of abuse. People have inquired why she has the scar, which is really cool, but they never explain it in the movie. And but I've read the common theory is, among fans is that it's indicative that her father or someone else early in her life who was abusive, who she talks about, the kind of person that they physically scarred her as well as mentally scarred her. So, but she
Yeah, that makes
persevered.
sense. She did
Hmm.
indeed. And the next day, Mandy walks to her job. Um, and on the way to walking to her job, the cinematography turns completely red, um, kind of as a symbol that well, a car drives up, and in that car is a cult, the Children of the New Dawn. So the cult is called the Children of the New Dawn, and like the whole sky is red, kind of showing that they're kind of predators. I think it's
Hmm.
because it's giving the energy that these guys are predators. And
Hmm.
the head honcho of the cult, and Jeremiah, he stares out the window and clocks like a predator. He sees Mandy walking to her job, and he's like get kind of awestruck by her energy or
Hmm.
whatever.
You kind of see through the photography and editing the image of her being stuck in his mind. Like she
Yeah.
walks towards you, and then the image stops, like that's going to be it.
Yeah.
Then
The
it
freeze
moves,
frame.
and then it shows it again, a little bigger, just in the slight kind of thing until it goes off screen.
Yeah.
Masterful,
And
masterful.
then right before the shot of her staring at him goes off screen, it just freeze frames for a sec.
Yeah, but the music is very ominous during this
Hmm.
passage, and I mean it's very to me it's sad during the sequence when she's coming out of the water, but not sad in a horrible way, just like very sentimental, I guess. And then in this part, it's very dun, dun, you're starting to get the metal vibes, and
Hmm.
it's like danger.
It's Doomy,
Yeah, it's
Doomy.
doomy, and it's sad because you see this vibrant person, and it's like, oh no, are they going to become a victim? Uh,
Hmm.
another cool touch is she wears the Master of no, it's not that one. She wears the Black Sabbath Never Say Die T-shirt, which is, but ironically or not, that T-shirt became popular because Robert Downey Jr. wore it in the Avengers as Tony Stark. But but this is actually a throwback to her character, who is a metalhead and is a fan. I've read is a fan of Black Sabbath and Motley Crue. Though a lot of this is stuff you pick up on watching it. They don't beat you over the head
Hmm.
with exposition, which is
Yeah.
nice. But yeah, they see her and it's really it's wild.
Hmm. It's a trip. I mean, this movie is a trip.
It's a trip. That's a compliment,
It
everybody.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I grew up, if
Um,
you're a trip, you're solid, man. You're
Hmm.
you're interesting, which there's nothing worse than being boring.
absolutely.
Right.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so then we go to Jeremiah's, the cult. We go to the cult house, and Jeremiah is lying down in a sort of uh, kind of weird, sort of psychotic state, nearly saying that he must. He's talking to Mother Melaine, which
Yeah,
is
right.
her name is Alwyn Flora.
The actress, yeah.
Flora, yeah,
Yeah.
and she's an Irish actress. She's an Abbey actress. She's actually from Dublin.
But she usually
That
does American accents in movies. She does them really well.
Yeah, but she's an Irish Abbey actress,
Yeah.
and we're proud of her. um,
Isn't Linus Roach Irish or Scottish? Who plays
also,
Jeremiah?
um,
Or
I don't know. Ned Dennehy is Irish.
okay. But Linus
I
Roach I
think
think is maybe second generation because I mean,
he's Irish.
Irish. His name is
Oh,
very, but anyway, continue.
Roach is Irish, kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, Alwyn's character, she's kind of Mother Melaine. She's kind of subservient to the to Jeremiah, and she's kind of like, "How can I serve you? Like I'm nothing. I'm no one." She's like, and Jeremiah's like, "Everything that you do is wrong," and it's kind of like spooky, kind of like psychologically bullying her, and
He
it's the
has this
story.
rage. Yeah, and you immediately start to see that he's like struggling all the time to keep this rage, and sometimes he just cracks in a way that nobody would do in public or whatever, but he's got his cult, so it's like, whoa, dude. He does it throughout
I,
the movie. It's
but I literally think the dude doesn't actually know who he is. He's
no.
Hmm.
completely lost. He's
Right. And I
his
think
identity. Yeah.
Go ahead, Elijah.
I think those are the type of scariest villains in movies, the ones who are so um mentally, psychologically trapped and they can't be bargained with.
Right. They're
Yeah.
constructing their own reality of narcissism.
Hmm.
In
Yeah.
his mad, in his own madness, isn't he? Yeah.
Hmm.
And he's taken it out on other people as
Yeah.
well. And he's totally got everybody in his cult wrapped around the idea that he is the leader, that he is a Jesus type character.
Hmm.
And he reminds me of Manson,
Yeah.
and I think he's probably based on
A little
Manson.
bit, yeah. Manson's more charming, but in my opinion. But
Yeah.
I mean, watching him on video, I'm just saying. But
Hmm.
yes,
I
yes,
understand.
he is like that kind of character, or a Jim Jones kind of character, or several of these David Koresh, maybe. Um, but yeah, Manson was kind of the blueprint for that kind of cult leader that we think of, especially when you have these kind
Also
of
failed musician, and they touch
failed
upon that.
musician. Yes, that's a key part of Jeremiah. But I'll let you continue with the saga first.
All good. Yeah. So, yeah, he says to Mother Melaine, he says, if you're not with me, then you will not ascend. So that's part of his ideology that he's said to kind of keep them hooked into believing that he's on the pedestal or
Hmm.
whatever. And then uh, she he says, "Fetch me, brother Swan." So this guy's Irish, I think. Brother Swan's Irish. He's Ned Dennehy,
Hmm.
and he says, "Get me the girl. I want the girl." And then Mother Melaine the next day goes in to see Mandy in the shop, and it's spooky because it's kind of like there's this plot, and there's like a bunch of predators coming after Mandy from different sides, so they're all approaching her for.
They must be trailing her because how do they know she works there? I know it's just a small community. Well, it's not even really a community, but a small patch of land. But I mean, they'd have to be like following her on foot. It's like, and then they discover she's in the store. It's pretty creepy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
I'd say it's like a really remote area.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that it kind of like stopped me from thinking that I might want to live in a really remote area. This movie, it's like I don't know.
Well,
It,
that's
I,
it. It's an idyllic for them, as we established in the beginning, but unfortunately, their neighbors. Well,
yeah, we'll get to it, but we know where we're
Hmm.
going.
yeah.
We know where we're going. Um, but then Brother Swan calls the biker gang. So he calls the biker gang with this, it's like ocarina, like a whistle.
It's called the Horn of Sorrow, or that's a really dramatic title,
Hmm.
The horn of sorrow.
something like
That's
that.
really fetch the horn of sorrow. But
Yeah,
yeah.
because Jeremiah's created his own cosmology with which he enslaves these people. The main difference between him and someone like, say, David Koresh or even Manson in a way is his cosmology is not very cohesive or thought out. So
Hmm.
there's all these holes in it. So he's just barely holding on to these people with what little charisma he has because he's really not offering them anything explaining what exactly do they do when they ascend. Like what exactly does this mean? But they're just like, whatever, I'll follow you.
Yeah. Yeah, because their self-esteem is just as low as his,
Hmm.
and I like attracts like, I suppose. If there was, if he, and that's actually an interesting thing that actually sparked something in my brain there. So we have the ocarina or whatever, the horn of
Yeah,
sorrow,
yeah. I might have it wrong,
and
but it's Horn of
it's
something.
okay. That's okay. Horn of sorrow will do. That's hilarious. Why not? And then the biker gang come, the Black Skull biker gang come, but they
Hmm.
kind of remind me of orcs from Lord of the Rings a little bit. They
Hmm.
kind of give off orc energy.
They're
I
also
don't
like
know.
Cenobites from Hellraiser. Their look, kind of.
That's true.
Oh yeah, they give off hella Cenobite vibes
Hmm.
Pun
for sure.
intended. Yeah.
Big time. And yeah, with the spikes all on their arms and everything. Yeah, totally. Proper metal. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And they drink this, uh, the Brother Swan gives the Black Skull member some LSD. So they drink this LSD. And he says, blood for blood. So they kind of like speak like they don't actually speak like humans.
They're not quite
The
human anymore. Now, as we go along, when we get into the other character played by Bill Duke, he kind of explains their origin. So, of how they became this way. And it's kind of interesting. Because the LSD
uh,
that they're giving them is LSD, but it's been like enhanced, mutated, synthesized in some MK Ultra experiments. So, but I'll save the rest till that he explains it. But that's so it's like who knows what kind of LSD it is, and I think it's changed their minds, and the way they talk and it's everything. They don't feel pain anymore. Pretty wild.
no, they're demonic. They're demonic,
Yeah.
and they feed off the pain. They enjoy the pain, so
Hmm. Hmm.
they enjoy it. But Mandy gets taken by Mother Melaine, and it's at their house at the base. She gets taken in the night, from from their house in the night, and it's pretty scary.
They take both of
Um,
them.
it takes both of them actually. Yeah, they do. You're right. But it's pretty scary
It
scene.
is.
Like, yeah, I just the lighting and everything is sort of it's shot like it is a horror. It turns into a horror, proper horror in that moment,
Because
I
they have
think.
that flashing on and off light like in Mario Bava movies. It goes from black and then you'll be illuminated by whatever light is supposedly coming through the house. In this case, that's very monochromatic blue, like mine is. And but what you really see each time that I thought was interesting is them looking at each other.
Hmm.
Like what are we gonna do? We in this together. I think that is even more indicative of their bond or their connection.
And it's just like unbearable silence too. It makes it even like it makes you like care for these characters like even more.
Hmm. Hmm.
So true. So true. And so that um brings us over to the back to the cult house, and Mother Mullane tries to kind of dominate Mandy like a mother, like a sick mother sort of vibe. And she like smacks her in the face and was is like, everything's gonna be fine as long as you do what you say, do what I say, be a good girl type vibe. So it's kind of creepy, this sort of like domination game she plays with
Hmm.
Mandy.
Well,
And we,
Jeremiah plays mind games with her, and then she wants to play mind games with other people.
well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Because it's the only way they seem to find empowerment is in playing mind games. They
Absolutely.
think that that's where their empowerment comes from. And
Hmm.
we know it doesn't for real.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, she says he thinks you're so special, as in Jeremiah thinks you're so special, and you can hear a sort of tinge of jealousy in there as well.
Mm.
Like, I'd like to be the special one, but
Hmm.
you're the special one, kind of the vibe. um, then she gives her LSD through her on her eyeball and
Hmm.
stings her with a mosquito, and it's like really gross. But and she's like, that's the cherry on top, which makes me think of these sorts of characters at sessions at parties. Who give people drugs and are like, oh, I call this one the blah blah blah, and
Mm.
they're so into their drug culture and their vibe of
Right.
uh, this trip that I'm gonna give you now type shite. Like, you know, um, yeah, and it's all about the ego of the person giving the trip rather than the enjoyment of the person about to have the trip. You know what I mean? That's a
Hmm.
bad shot.
It's a common trope in movies, but of course in real life too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people do that crap in
Mm.
real life too. Um, and then we come to see Jeremiah come in, and it's like, okay, it's a big meeting, and everybody's kind of like, all the cult is there, and Mandy's tripping on the LSD, and everything is red, and Jeremiah kind of looks kind of slightly blue with his own self importance idea of self importance, and you kind of
Kind of
think he's
fuzzy
being,
where all the colors are between the people. And then he kind of
that's
like
true.
walks through it. You know, it's still like fuzzy colors around him, but it's like he's slightly solidified. You know, like he's the leader. So, it
Yeah.
and then
The
you
fuzzy. Oh, sorry.
no, you go ahead.
The the fuzzy and wonky movements in the camera and the cinematography, the red and purple grading, it makes him even look more intimidating.
Yeah, and see that's the thing about his character is that you're gonna feel the feel dread of what he can do
Yeah.
in the first half of the movie.
Hmm.
In the second half, they peel him apart bit by bit.
But to be honest, in the next 10 seconds, I think he gets peeled apart. To be fair, because
Yeah, and
um,
yeah.
yeah, see, that's the thing, because he talks about how he's a musician and he puts on music for Mandy, and he's like, "This is my song, and what do
Yeah,
you
he plays
think?"
the
And he's wearing a,
Carpenters.
yeah, and he's wearing, but and then he's
It's
wearing
supposed
a
to be his
robe
real
and he's
music. Yeah,
Hmm.
naked or whatever, completely in the nip or whatever. There's nothing wrong with nudity. We love nudity here. It's all good, but
right.
it's just the way he's using his nudity is like he's manipulating. He's being manipulative with his nudity.
Yeah, he's like,
Like,
They
how
even
look at.
use
Go ahead. Sorry, Elijah.
they even use Jeremiah's name in the song.
do
Yeah, the
they? Yeah.
song is about
Yeah.
written by him and it's about him. And
Yeah.
it's like soft rock meets folk rock meets, like you said, the Carpenters. And it's not bad music, but for that time period, by the early 1980s, that had become very cliche. Like if it had been
Hmm.
1973, maybe, but yeah,
It's
and
kind of
Yeah.
Jefferson Airplane as well, a little bit
yeah,
Jefferson Airplane.
yeah. But you're right. You know, which is basically what you just said. But he presents his manhood to her, in a
Hmm.
highly inappropriate fashion.
Yeah. And then she
Like,
and then she laughs at him even on LSD.
hmm because that
She
what
laughs
she's
at him.
doing is she's laughing at his false ego,
Hmm.
and that's what tears him apart. So she's
Yeah.
laughing at his false ego. He thinks that she's going to love his music and think he's great or
Love his
whatever,
penis.
and
Yeah.
all of that, and she just laughs, and then she laughs kind of
Yeah.
aggressively, and
And then it just
she's like, "Stop it!" And
You,
hmm
she's
you
like,
hit you,
"Don't
you hit
you
on
fucking
something.
look
You hit
at
on
me!"
something about those levels because,
Yeah.
as we've seen, she's a very sensitive, if you want to use that term as a noun in like mystical, like a medium. She's like a sensitive. Or you could say an empath, whatever. But
yeah.
she on the surface, she's laughing at how silly the music is and maybe how unattractive his penis is. But ultimately, it's underneath. Yes, she's laughing at him. This whole
Yeah. This
presentation of
falseness.
his ego, you know.
Yeah, it's so false. Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
She's tearing him apart with that laughter. And I think
Because
that's
she's genuinely interested and knowledgeable about the occult. So this whole cult to her, even tripping and not, as a captive, she still thinks they're ridiculous.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And
she's
it just
she's so
completely like
intelligent
shreds Jeremiah's ego and insecurities.
Mhm.
for sure. And that's when they snap and put her in the bag or whatever.
Hmm.
Tell us
They like
what's going on with Red Miller at the time.
oh yeah, before they do that though, Red Miller is like he is strapped up with like barbed wire around his mouth, all around his mouth. Okay, Jeremiah snaps, but do you know what he says? He says, "Don't you fucking look at me," which is what in Blue Velvet. It's what they say in Blue Velvet.
Yeah,
Um,
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
Dennis
like
Hopper's
a
character Frank
ten,
Booth. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Crazy villain too.
I didn't pick on that
yeah,
either. That's cool.
yeah. Oh yeah. Then after that, he kind of flips out and he says, "Tell me what to do. Tell me what to
Yeah, he's
do,"
talking
because
to
she's after
Hmm.
flipping out.
God or whatever.
Yeah, what he thinks is God, because I
Yeah,
don't think that he's actually connected to God. I think he's probably connected to Satan and who
it's
he
his own
thinks is
ego.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, who he thinks is
Yeah.
God.
because a
Right.
woman has mocked his manhood and his creativity. So you see the mask completely fall off, and he's completely a nut. I mean, that's what I mean. He's like, tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. I mean, it's like it's like someone just having this total psychotic break. He's on a
Right.
he's on a loop. And he doesn't. He's a total drama queen. And then his ego or God reassures himself. You know, which if you really are crazy and have ego problems, it's not bad to do that kind of thing. Go and reassure yourself and talk to yourself and find your ego and find your confidence. But he's not doing it for any purpose that's benevolent.
Right.
It's all about him. He is a narcissist, definitely
Hmm.
Absolute.
a narcissist. Yeah. Um, so he goes out then to Red in the courtyard or whatever, in the like just in front of the house, and they have him locked up or whatever. They have him strapped, um, tied up or whatever with barbed wire around his face and hands. And I kind of feel like Red is like Jesus in that moment because he's wearing a crown of thorns, but it's around his mouth. And then
Right.
Jeremiah sticks a sword in his side, which is very like Jesus. Somebody sticks
That's
a
Oh
sword in
yeah.
symbolism.
Jesus'
Yeah.
side.
To like Christianity.
Like the sword of
Yeah.
destiny.
Yeah.
Mm. Like, well, very painful sword
But
he has.
it must be so thin. And it's obviously thin and sharp, but it must be. He knows enough to stab it straight through a non-vital area, so he won't bleed out.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, he would not have survived if he hit something, crucial.
That is true.
Yep.
I had not thought of that.
Still hurts.
Very, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So Jeremiah, I think, is very jealous of the love between Mandy and Red. He's kind of like, "Oh, you think you guys are in love? I'll show you love." And then he like gets this younger member of the gang or whatever of the cult and gets her to like do Russian roulette and like uh, shoot the gun to her head or whatever, like showing how much uh, trust she has in Jeremiah. And like
Hmm.
it's control is what he really has. He has control
Yeah.
over the lake. That's not love. Love is not control. You know
Right.
what I mean? But that's what Jeremiah thinks love is, control.
Which I honestly think is the core, like the real religion behind like the what's the name? The Children of the New Dawn. I think that's the real religion behind it. Control.
That's true.
It's a
Yeah, the real
microcosm
religion.
of a lot of religions and cults.
Yeah.
It's, and a lot of people are so absorbed in religion that they don't even understand that they're being controlled. Like, I've met religious people recently who don't even realize that the religion that they are in has given them sort of attributes of a controlling type of nature because they're so it's absorbed into them to the point of denial nearly.
They've
So
yielded their themselves to this thing, which a cynical person or a skeptic might say this imaginary thing that they believe in. They've yielded themselves to it and feel they must follow its dictates and dogma.
yeah, because like I'm a spiritual person and I personally am connected to source energy, to like to spirit or whatever. Um, but I don't personally believe in religion because to me they're systems of control. I don't need the religion aspect to be spiritual.
Hmm.
Personally, that's where I've come from because I think that religions are made up of men, of people, and people, if they're not balanced, can use the religion to control people, and I think that's what
Right. It's a massive control mechanism, and it always has been. And now in our current right now era in the West, religion as the main control device has waned. So now it's politics. It's just they're not even hiding it anymore. It's just like politics is these people's religion. I mean, they do worship these horrible, corrupt, genocidal leaders. And it's like, wow, they've yielded their will, and their ability to think critically. Unfortunate.
Yeah. I, well, I mean, that's why recently I put up a boundary that after work, I don't want anybody, and I teach yoga, so I don't want anybody DMing me about politics after 10. Like, when I come home from work, I don't want to talk about politics. I want to
I know not
unwind.
to DM you after 10 at all.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, boundaries is a good thing. It's a good
Yes,
lesson, but
yes, absolutely.
this cult could do with learning some boundaries.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like not stalking and killing people.
Yes.
That
It
would
could be
be
like
great.
us. They could have a podcast, get it all out.
um, but yeah, they string Mandy up or whatever in a bag, and it's really heartbreaking. They douse her in uh, petrol or whatever and set it on fire. And Red's face when he sees Mandy being set on fire, it's absolutely heartbreaking. Like
Yeah.
really hard. Because you can just see how much love he has for her. And you can see in Jeremiah's face, you can see everybody's reaction to her
Mhm.
being burned. Like she's Jesus. She might as well
Yeah.
also be Jesus too on the cross being
They're so
killed.
twisted. They're also happy about it.
Yeah. They enjoy every second of it,
It's
and not to
really
mention Red's inaudible screaming makes the scene even like more gut wrenching.
right. And
Mm.
also the fire reflects in his eyes as he's
Yeah.
crying. It's pretty rough.
I guess after this point, it would be go into the second part of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, do you
Would you
want
like
to?
me to continue?
You'd have such a pretty voice. Of course I would.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank
We'll just
you.
interject as needed. Then we can all
Oh,
have a.
sweet.
Then we can all like share ideas.
Hmm.
That's it.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice one. Sweet. We're all We've all concurred. The stone
We've
cutters have
had
concurred.
yes, we've headed toward chapter three formally of the movie. So chapter two is called Children of the New Dawn. That's kind of what we've been in just now. So then the final era is called Mandy, and they show the logo, and it starts to sprout out like a tree and branches. But of course, what it is it's replicating the logo of a black metal band, the way they do their logos. So it gets more metal, you know.
Hmm. Oh well, definitely it's metal, and we'll talk about that
Yeah, and you think
later as well.
somebody might think, well, okay, she just died. Why is the key chapter going to be called Mandy? And it's like, well, that's what I was saying earlier. That's the kind of the whole point of the movie, really. Even after she's dead, it's that love and that force, that presence, you know.
Yeah, I couldn't have put
Yeah,
it better.
and
Oh, thanks.
so Red frees himself, and he grieves over Mandy's ashes. So
It's a rough
yeah, so we
scene.
just
Yeah,
yeah
it
we
is.
He
It's
hold,
actually kind of surprisingly graphic. Like even after, like the aftermath of it, like just seeing her ashes, just
well,
being blown away.
yeah, he picks up her skull, and it's so fragile that it, halves itself with the wind and into ashes. And
Hmm.
um, I won't go deep into this, but I had kind of a hard time seeing this in the theater because of the audience and the way they carried on. And true story, when that happened, a lot of people laughed. They acted like the cult members, and they acted like Nicolas Cage's reaction was. They thought this was a Nicolas Cage comedy, and he was just doing the Cage rage thing. And when I saw these younger people like laughing at her death and her disintegration and his grieving, I was like, where am I? Who are these people? What is going on with the world?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Like Nicolas Cage has like a big range in comedy, but like the guy has done stuff like outside of that genre too.
Yeah.
And I found nothing remotely funny, nothing even remotely funny about like that scene.
Yeah, I'll mention another where people in the audience went nuts, but we'll get to that.
Yeah,
mm,
definitely
yeah.
not a comedy movie. There's like,
No.
I mean, there's definitely like campy, a couple campy quotes. Like for instance, you ruined my favorite shirt, or
Yeah,
like,
yeah, of course.
but
Yeah.
like on paper, it is not a comedy.
Because once he starts fighting for revenge, he does throw in a couple of those quips that remind you of Ash Williams, played by Bruce Campbell or something. And
But we also get a lovely feeling about him finding his power in that too.
oh
There's
yeah, oh yeah, it's a journey. So take us on that journey. We'll embroider your narrative.
oh, lovely, beautiful. Be part of the tapestry, indeed.
Yes, absolutely.
So he comes home to his forest home, and he sees the cartoon, the Cheddar Goblin cartoon, as he walks through the door. And I mean, I feel like life itself that mirrors the way that in real life that when tragedies happen in our lives, that sometimes it's broken up with silly moments to
Hmm.
kind of like give us some sort of relief for a second,
Yeah.
you know? And I think there was just the Cheddar Goblin cartoon was a bit of just a tiny bit of relief after that really sad scene.
Yeah, because that's the
And
only point that I can think of just deliberate all out humor. Though I did laugh at quite a few things that happened while he was getting revenge. Not at him though.
Mhm.
mhm. Yeah, understandable. So he has a nightmare and he sees his Mandy. He sees Mandy kind of burning up in the sun and burning apart. And I think it's like he's just traumatized by seeing his
This is the
love,
the animated
the love
part.
of his life, the animated part, and it's the love of his life burning apart.
Hmm. I thought that was an homage to what he's going for because the style of art reminded me of the era of animated fantasy adult cartoons from the early 80s, like Fire and Ice and Heavy Metal and Wizards, and it reminded me of that era specific. And considering her character is a writer and admirer of fantasy, so in his dreams she's like this animated fantasy being.
And he wakes up out of the dream, and I guess this is the next part where I can imagine that horrible audience laughed. But uh, he went to the bathroom, found some alcohol, and he drank the alcohol, and he started screaming. He was grieving for Mandy. So in that
Hmm.
moment, I can imagine people in the audience,
Oh
Henry,
yeah,
where
they
you were
loved it. They laughed
laughing.
their
At,
asses off.
there he is. There
Yeah,
he is
and
again, screaming.
yeah, and I kind of feel like though that was the audience who, though that specific audience didn't really fully know what they were getting themselves into.
Mhm.
Yeah, when they saw the film and just thought, "Oh, look, it's Nicolas Cage. This is gonna be gold."
They were out
Like,
of their league, but and they did what a lot of annoying hipsters do is they're out of their league and they kind of sense it, but they want you to feel like they're superior to the material. Like
hmm,
I can put an ironic distance and laugh at this work of art and divorce myself of any emotional intent of the creator. And I just feel
yeah,
like, man, you people, well, I won't rant, but
It's false ego. It's false ego. So in a way, it's exactly like the cult. It's
yeah,
exactly.
that false
Yeah.
hmm,
ego. You were surrounded by the cult members. Probably made it more visceral for you, Henry.
Yeah. And I want to say seeing it in the theater,
Level.
the colors were immersive, but the sound was very loud to the whole
oh
movie,
wow.
Ooh.
except when it was silent. And the Blu-ray has mastered it pretty close when you turn it up, but not quite like in the theater. It was
Would
just
you
like,
say would you say loud as a compliment or a bit of
yeah,
a
yeah, because it helped envelop you. Like when he starts, when Johan Johansson, who did the soundtrack, when they start getting into that dun, those doomy chords, a lot of set playing on the synthesizer. I mean, it's loud. It's like really, it punctuates everything, including your brain. So, it's inescapable. And with the red haze and everything, and it's like, you are going on a trip into this movie.
absolutely.
It is derangement of the senses via cinema rather than narcotics. And
Hmm.
I love it.
Yeah. And I do want to add on that I personally think like Mandy is one of like the very rare horror films where I almost felt like the cinematography and the color grading was hypnotic in a sense, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like this the one shot, it's not even a scene, it's a shot, a single shot. It's when he's already like hamming on the black skulls and like bloodshed is already occurring. He's driving through the forest and he gets like stuck in like a small puddle of mud, and the shot pans out. On the right hand half of the shot, it's red, but on the other half, it's like brownish, darkish. How were they able to do that?
Yeah, there's ways.
Like, it's very impressive. It's still
It
in my
is.
mind. I
I
could
mean,
still
I
see it.
I'm wondering
Be
how much of it.
creative. Be creative.
I mean, some of it was
Hmm.
digital, but I will say this. I mean, I compared to Mario Bava. Mario Bava was a master of lighting, in the 60s and 70s doing horror,
Oh yeah.
and his pattern has been imitated by hundreds of directors. It's in this movie. That whole palette that Rhiannon was talking about that was popular in the 80s, where you have like the hot pink going into the spectrum of purple and a certain
Hmm.
turquoise shot blue and a certain flat greens or they're bright but they're kind of pastel. Okay, I'm probably, and the purples. I'm missing the whole pattern palette, but that palette was what Baba used extensively before any other color director that I could think of,
Oh
and
yeah, for
it's in.
sure.
It's in a lot of movies. I mean, movies that I've reviewed on this channel. The Vamp is like that. That Vamp is a very 80s movie and has that exact kind of lighting. And it does when you watch those movies, whether you were alive or living through it or whatever through the 80s, you are enveloped in that mood, you
I
know.
Like
agree.
Dario
Uh,
Dario Argenta
Gary,
type stuff.
excellent,
Yeah, that's
superb.
another one too. Mario, yeah, both Mario Bava and Dario Argento, they were definitely like the pioneers
Yeah, Argento
of
kind of copied Bava and then kept going forward with it. And
yeah,
yeah,
and
they're too
and
brilliant.
I would like to add on to your color grading take on Mario Bava's films, especially his earlier films, because I definitely see a lot of that in Mandy. Like, for instance, one of my favorite horror movies ever is actually a Mario Bava film. It's called Blood and Black Lace.
Oh yeah, mine too.
The Oh my god, the amazing colors in that movie.
Uh,
Amazing colors in that movie.
yeah, it's stunning.
Yeah,
I still watch that one regularly. And our own Bill Mulligan, Mario Bava is his favorite director, and he
nice,
has reviewed Shocked in one episode a while back, and also while he was reviewing Shock, he gave us a little biography of Mario Bava. So we'll be coming back to Bava.
nice.
He's a touchstone. Thank you for joining us for part one of our super special symposium on the film Mandy from 2018. This is part of our ongoing Strange Love Story series. Join us next time, and we will be presenting you part two, the conclusion. In the meantime, if you like what you see, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. And thank you for watching. Take care.
And it's true that we cannot see that far behind. If we looked all the way in the past, we'd go blind. In the night, from the stars as they've all lived their lives, and the light that they gave as they burned and then died.